Today, while shopping for lingerie, I bumped into an old friend. We attended beauty college together but lost touch after she graduated. It had been over 5 years since we last met. Our last encounter was over coffee, where she shared an incident that happened at the salon where she worked. Apparently, one of the salon's loyal clients, Sarah, would often come in near closing time, usually because her business schedule made earlier appointments difficult. Sometimes, my friend Jordan would stay back to help with a manicure or a perm if Sarah needed an expedited appointment. Everyone, including the client, was ready to go home by then. Sarah would sometimes bring her young son, Timmy, along to her appointments, especially since she picked him up from daycare on her way home from work. At the time of the event, Timmy was about 8 or 9. That evening, he was particularly hyper and started running around the salon, which started to irritate everyone. I had already given Sarah a manicure while her hair was drying, and I was waiting for Maddie, the stylist, to finish so we could leave. Timmy, however, was touching everything in sight. When he reached the nail station, he grabbed some bottles of polish and accidentally dropped one. Luckily, it didn't break. Sarah, visibly frustrated, began scolding Timmy, and to ease the tension, I jokingly teased him. I didn't want to embarrass him, just lighten the mood. Sarah was sitting in Maddie's chair with half-done hair, and I figured if she had been fully finished, she might have scolded Timmy even more. Then, Sarah told Timmy, "Shame on you. Those are not toys. That nice lady makes her living with those items." She seemed to be trying to scare him into being quiet, but instead, Timmy started begging her, "Please, Mom, please. Can she do my nails?" Over and over again, he asked. I don't know what came over me, but I blurted out, "Oh, for goodness sake, let me put some polish on his nails." The salon fell silent. Timmy stared at me with wide eyes, then turned to his mom, pleading, "Please, Mama, please." Sarah, somewhat reluctantly, agreed, saying, "Do whatever he wants." So, I painted his nails a soft pink, and he was completely captivated. He smiled the whole time, and after that, he was quiet as a mouse. From then on, every time Sarah came in, she requested I do her nails. Before long, Timmy was coming in for a weekly manicure to keep him calm. It seemed harmless, and I didn't think much of it. As Timmy got older, though, I started to question whether it was as innocent as I'd first thought. He was about 12 when I noticed a shift. He had been letting his hair grow, and with summer vacation starting, it felt odd that a 12-year-old boy was still coming to the beauty salon for a manicure. Occasionally, he'd joke around, asking for blue polish to make his mom react. But for the most part, he was using nail hardener and clear polish, nothing extreme. His nails always looked neat, especially for a boy his age. On one occasion, as summer approached, Sarah was urging Timmy to get a haircut. "Timmy, summer's almost here, and it's going to be so hot. Don't you want your hair to be cooler and not so sweaty?" I was applying the usual hardener to his nails and watched as he responded, "Mom, I like it long. I don't want to cut it. It's taken me forever to get it this way." Sarah, frustrated, nearly shouted, "Maybe Jordan can give you a girl's haircut if you want to keep wearing nail polish and have long hair. Maybe she can even give you a perm to make it look less messy." It was clear that Sarah was trying to push Timmy into cutting his hair, but once again, she wasn't going about it the right way. Timmy looked at me with those big green eyes and asked, "Would you give me a trim, Jordan?" I wasn't sure how to respond. I really didn't want to get caught in their personal drama. I glanced over at Sarah, who was sitting in Maddie's chair, and she just gave a small nod, indicating she had given up. "Do whatever he wants, just keep it neat," she said. So, I turned to Timmy and said, "All right, Timmy, I'm done with your nails. Hop up into the chair by the sink, and I'll wash your hair first." After washing and conditioning his hair, which, by the way, was a lovely shade of brown with natural bronze highlights, much like his mom's, I moved him to the styling chair. I put a cape on him and then asked, "So, Timmy, I'll just trim the split ends. I won't take much off unless you want something else." Timmy stared at the large pictures of models on the wall showcasing different hairstyles. "I like that one," he said, pointing to a model with long, straight hair and bangs cut straight across to her eyebrows. You mean the one with straight black hair and bangs? I asked. Yeah, that's the one. She's really pretty. I was unsure of what he was asking. So you want your hair like hers? I clarified. He hesitated and then said, You can't make my hair like that, can you? His face dropped when he realized it was a woman's style. Is it because it's a girl's haircut? I asked. Well, Timmy, it is a girl's style. Is that really what you want? I glanced at Sarah and Maddie, who were now paying attention, and Timmy looked between his mom and me. I think I would like it if you could. I mean, if you think it's okay, Timmy said. It was clear that he was more concerned about what I thought than what his mom thought. I was in a tough spot and didn't know what to do. I could do a boy's version. What do you think? I asked, first looking at Timmy, then at Sarah. Sarah looked away, and I think she was a little embarrassed. I know you can make it look good, Timmy pleaded. Please, Jordan, could you do that? My heart went out to him, so I agreed. Over the last couple of years, his style had started to look a little more feminine, though I never intentionally feminized it. I wasn't sure if he was doing something to his hair between appointments, but it was definitely becoming more feminine. This leads to the dilemma I'm facing now. Sarah called me last week and told me that she found Timmy in her makeup, wearing lipstick and trying to put on mascara. She said it was a traumatic experience for both of them since Timmy's father wasn't around. Sarah was worried that he hadn't spent enough time with male role models and that he was confused. She wasn't sure how to handle it. A friend of hers suggested that she dress him up as a girl and take him to the mall in front of kids his age, hoping it would shock him into realizing he was a boy. She asked me what I thought, and I told her I thought that was a bad idea. What if I just put makeup on him so he can see how ridiculous it looks? She asked again. I didn't want to get involved but thought it might be less harmful if she did it privately. I could never do it, she said. He's my son. I was hoping you might agree to help him out sometime. What could I say? I told her I'd think about it and call her back. And here's where you come in, Jamie. I was thinking maybe I could bring Timmy to your salon one evening, and you could help him out. That way, it wouldn't be as embarrassing for Sarah and Timmy as if it were done at home, where everyone knows them. Even after hours, it could be risky. Sarah asked if I would do the makeover at her house, but I didn't want to get any more involved than I already had. What about it, Jamie? Will you do it? She asked. I agreed, of course. Since prom and graduation had passed, business had slowed down, and we decided to schedule the makeover for Timmy on a Saturday evening. It was June 4th, and I closed early at 7 p.m. instead of the usual 8 p.m. Jordan was also going to be there to help Timmy feel more comfortable and to step in if there were any issues between Sarah and Timmy. I had just finished tidying up the day's business when I saw a woman and what looked like a teenage girl, or an androgynous boy, knocking on the glass door. I opened the door and greeted them. You must be Sarah, and this must be Timmy. The woman looked me over and replied, Yes, I'm Sarah Carmichael, and this is my son Timmy. We're here to give Timmy a real makeover, so he can see what he looks like. Sarah was carrying a garment bag along with her purse, and Timmy was holding a large tote with a rose on each side. I'm Jamie, and this is my salon. I'm glad Jordan asked me to help. We're going to have fun today, I said with a warm smile. Timmy looked a bit nervous, so I tried to reassure him with a friendly expression. Jordan came up front, gave Timmy a hug, and shook Sarah's hand. So, my understanding is that I'm going to style Timmy's hair and do the makeover, and Jordan will give him a manicure with nail extensions. Is that right? I double-checked to make sure we were all on the same page. No one said anything about extensions, Sarah replied. Well, if we're going to do this, we might as well go all the way, I suggested. Sarah seemed hesitant to approve anything too elaborate. What's in the bag? Jordan asked. Sarah pulled out a little dress. It's one I never wear anymore. It's really too young for me, but I bought it on a whim, she explained, handing the dress to Jordan. Jordan recognized it. I remember that dress. You wore it when you came in for your nails one evening, going on a date with a man from your office, I think, Jordan said. Sarah blushed and glanced at Timmy. I think you're right, she admitted. Trying to change the subject, she added, anyway, I don't wear it anymore, and I want Timmy to see what he looks like as a female, so I brought it for him to wear. We're pretty close in size, so we can at least give it a try. Sarah then took the tote from Timmy, reached in, and pulled out a pair of beige pumps with about 3 to 4 inch heels. She set them aside, then pulled out a delicate bra, adorned with lace and a cute ribbon between the cups. It seemed like part of the outfit she had worn for her date. Sarah held up the bra, and I glanced at Timmy to see his reaction. His eyes were so wide, I thought they might pop out of his head. Timmy is already wearing panties and pantyhose. Should he get dressed now? Sarah asked. No, I think we should do the makeover first, then when he dresses, he'll already look and feel like a girl, I answered. Timmy seemed excited, but also a little nervous. Timmy, come with me to the back dressing room and take off your hose. I'll give you a smock to wear, and you can also remove your t-shirt and jeans, I instructed. Timmy looked slightly disappointed at the thought of removing his hose, but Jordan explained she'd be giving him a pedicure along with the manicure, and that perked him up. While Jordan and Timmy were in the back, I spoke with Sarah. I know this is difficult for you, I said. Jordan's told me that things have been leading up to this for quite a while. I've had quite a bit of experience with situations like this, and I can assure you everything will be fine. Oh, Jamie, I really hope so. If he could just see that this isn't normal, maybe by dressing completely like a girl, he'll realize it and stop. I just want him to be my son again. Sarah, I have to be honest. He might react as you hope, but there's also a chance he could like it and be captivated by the image he sees. It's a possibility, I told her. Sarah looked a bit shaken by the idea that Timmy might embrace the path of feminization. I know, Jamie. I've thought about that. But I have to know how he'll react so we can move forward either way. Jordan and Timmy returned, and we decided that after washing and conditioning his hair, I would shape it up a bit and set it. I suggested a perm, but Sarah wasn't on board, much to Timmy's visible disappointment. Jordan would do his pedicure while I worked on his hair, and then she'd do his manicure once he was under the dryer. Jordan took care of washing and conditioning his long hair. She was right about its beautiful color, and it was perfectly straight, reaching down to his shoulders, all one length. He still wore bangs, though they were brushed to one side. When Timmy sat in my chair, I took a moment to explain what I was going to do. Sarah, if you don't mind, I think we should give Timmy a different name just for tonight. Sarah nodded, and I turned to Timmy. Timmy, do you have a girl's name you'd like to use? He started to say something but then just nodded. No. How about Missy? I have a niece named Missy, and you kind of remind me of her. He smiled broadly, clearly happy with the name. All right, Missy, I'm going to shape up the style you have and set it on rollers to give it a bit of pizzazz. We don't have time for highlights, but I think you'll love what I have in mind. Now, just sit back and enjoy while we make you beautiful. He sighed, looking relieved and excited. I glanced at Sarah, who seemed nervous but resigned to the process. I didn't trim much since his hair already had a feminine shape. I started setting it on large rollers to keep the sleek look he was used to while adding fullness and maybe a few curls. I knew the process itself would be just as important as the final result. As I rolled the first few curlers, I felt him trembling in the chair. I took a moment to admire his fine facial features. He had full cheeks, which was surprising given his high cheekbones. The combination of both features was rare but certainly a cosmetician's dream. His green eyes were framed with long, dark lashes, and his eyebrows, which hadn't been plucked or waxed, were naturally feminine. Meanwhile, Jordan was working on his toenails. When she was ready to polish them, she looked up at me and asked, What color do you think, Jamie? Pink, she suggested. I thought for a moment. Since this is a one-time thing, I was thinking something more mature, like what an 18-year-old might wear on a date. A dark red could be perfect. After all, his dress is a bit mature, too, and we want to keep a consistent look. As we talked, I noticed Missy breathing in the scent of the polish. Jordan started painting his toenails with a rich crimson polish. By the time I had his hair about halfway done, Missy began squirming in the chair. Jordan had finished his pedicure and stepped outside for a cigarette with Sarah. I asked, "Are you uncomfortable, Missy?" "No, Miss Jamie, but I really have to go to the bathroom," he said. "All right, Missy, I think it's time for a break. Jordan showed you where the dressing rooms are. The bathroom is right across the hall. Go ahead and take care of what you need to, and we'll pick back up in a few minutes," I said. I removed his cape and watched as he slipped on the flip-flops we provide for pedicure clients. After stretching, I went to the kitchen to grab a cup of coffee. The coffee machine is near the door, and the bathroom is just beside the kitchen. As I poured my coffee, I swear I heard him talking to himself in a high, girly voice from the bathroom. I took my coffee outside to join Jordan and Sarah, who were deep in conversation. As I walked up, I noticed it seemed important. "Hey Jamie, how's it going in there?" Jordan asked. "Fine. Missy just needed a quick break," I replied, noticing Sarah's reaction when I called Timmy Missy and mentioned the little girl's room. It seemed like she might say something but then didn't. After finishing my cigarette, we headed back inside, just as Missy was returning from the bathroom. Even in the flip-flops, there was a feminine sway to his hips. When he turned to sit, I caught a quick glimpse of his cute little bubble butt. Honestly, with his head half-rolled, the smock on, and his crimson toenails on display, he didn't even need makeup to look like the epitome of femininity. I glanced at Sarah, and I could see she noticed it too. "All right, young lady, this is the final lap. We'll start on your makeup soon. What do you think so far?" I asked. "Oh, Miss Jamie, it's wonderful," Missy replied. "I know I seem nervous, but it's just excitement. I've seen my mom go through all of this, and she's so beautiful. I've always wanted to look like her. Everyone says I look like her, except I'm a boy." Suddenly, his face shifted from joy to a resigned sadness. "Well, tonight you're going to look like twins," I said, trying to lift his spirits. "I know, and I really appreciate everything you're doing for me," he said, his sincerity shining through. He was as precious as a preacher's sincerity and as cute as a teenage model. I finished setting his hair in the rollers, and when he stood up to look in the mirror, I couldn't help but notice the way he looked, like a young housewife getting ready for a special night with her husband. Maybe it was the crimson polish, but there was something about him I couldn't quite pinpoint. I sat him under the dryer and handed him a Marie Claire magazine to look through while he waited. I explained that he should set the magazine in his lap and turn the pages with one hand while Jordan worked on his nails with the other. I also told him that he might need to wait until Jordan finished the first hand before he could finish any articles, no sense in smudging the polish just to read. Once I had the dryer on and set, I left him to his magazine while Jordan began working on his fingernails. I had already noticed his nails were in great condition, and Jordan confirmed it. If I remembered correctly, he was about 14, and most boys his age don't take as much care of their nails as he did. Because of how well-maintained his nails were, Jordan didn't need to do much other than remove the old clear polish, prep the nails, and apply the extensions. Once they were in place, she put on a fresh base coat and then began polishing each nail with professional precision. The two of them seemed to settle into a rhythm, Missy under the dryer with her magazine and Jordan focused on applying the extensions. It was a peaceful sight. About 30 minutes later, when I rejoined Jordan and Sarah outside, Jordan had just finished applying the last coat of crimson polish to Missy's nails. Missy was staring at them in awe, as if they were diamonds. And they did sparkle like diamonds, so his reaction was understandable. I checked Missy's hair, and it was dry enough to move on to makeup. It was getting late, and while I was energized by helping Missy look beautiful, my feet were starting to feel the strain from the long day. "I love your nails, Missy. They're gorgeous." "Jordan is truly an artist," I said, admiring the work. I looked at Missy and then at Jordan, both of them equally proud of the results. "Don't you think so, Sarah?" I asked, glancing over at her. Sarah had been staring at her son's pretty, feminine red nails, and looked up as if startled from her thoughts. "Oh yes, they are lovely, Jordan," she replied, and then turned to look at Missy. Timmy, or rather, Missy, seemed so at ease in her new look that Sarah's resistance began to wane. It was impossible not to notice how much Missy was enjoying herself as a girl, and Sarah couldn't deny the truth that was right in front of her. I started the makeup process with cleansing and moisturizing, explaining every step of the way, speaking to Missy as if she were a real girl. I noticed that Sarah was now actively participating and seemed to be having just as much fun as Missy. "You have beautiful skin, Missy. All I'm going to use is a sheer foundation base. Normally, we use foundation to cover irregularities, but your skin is perfect as it is. This will just give it a smooth texture and a nice canvas for the other makeup." As I applied the foundation, blending it with a sponge, I wondered how Sarah would react once she saw the final look. After setting the foundation with a light dusting of powder, I used a pencil to define Missy's brows. She had naturally feminine brows, so I only needed to fill them in slightly and extend the shape, giving them a soft curve beyond the corners of her eyes. Next, I used a black gel eyeliner, called Midnight Rendezvous, to create a dramatic look, inspired by the eyeliner Katy Perry wore in one of her music videos. I applied it with a kohl pencil to the lower lash line, accentuating the corners and smudging a bit on both the top and bottom for a smoky effect. This helped disguise the fact that Missy was only 14. "You see how I blended here in the crease? This gives your eyes depth. You can use this technique to make your eyes look wider or narrower. I'm making them as wide as I can now," I explained as I worked. I noticed Sarah was paying close attention to every step I took, just as Missy was. Normally, I wouldn't use shimmering eyeshadow unless I was going out to a club or for a fancy date, but tonight I'm going to make an exception for you, sweetheart. "I want to see what you'd look like if you were going on a date," I said. Missy sat up a little straighter at the mention of a date, and I saw Sarah lean in slightly, eager to hear what I would say next. "All right, your eyes are done, and they look beautiful, sexy, even, if I do say so myself," I added with a smile. Sarah raised her eyebrows at me, so I quickly clarified, "Of course, young ladies don't usually get to look sexy until they're a little older." "But Missy, you look much older now." Missy beamed, and Sarah seemed satisfied with the comment. I applied blush to complement Missy's high cheekbones, then added a light pop of red to the apples of her cheeks. She looked like she was ready to walk the runway. "Missy, we'll wait to put your lipstick on until we're done dressing you, okay? I've got the perfect red that'll make you weak in the knees," I said, knowing full well that Missy was already more than taken with the look. "Now, is your dress a pullover, or will you step into it?" I asked Sarah. "The back unbuttons to the waist, and she can step into it," Sarah replied. "Great, I'll do your hair now," I said, as I began unrolling the curlers. I checked Missy's hair and saw that it was completely dry. The setting lotion I had used without consulting Sarah had worked wonders. The curls had a strong bounce, just like I'd hoped. "This style is a bit retro, Missy, but with your mom's dress and those heels, I think it's the perfect look for the date we talked about earlier," I said, smiling. I looked at Sarah, but her expression remained unchanged. As each roller was removed, the excitement and anticipation on both Missy's and Sarah's faces told me this was a good idea. I finished smoothing out Missy's hair and turned her toward the mirror so she could see the full look. At first, I thought she might be disappointed, as she didn't say anything or show much expression. But then, she turned to me, wide-eyed. "Oh, Miss Jamie, I can't believe it. Is it really me?" she asked, twirling as she admired the young woman looking back at her. Her pretty white teeth flashed a smile, begging for red lips, but I held off. I wanted the lipstick to be the finishing touch. "Let's get you dressed," I said. Sarah, would you like to help her, or would Jordan or I be better? Sarah replied, yes, thank you. I believe I'd like to help her. She referred to her son as her, which was an interesting shift. Jordan and I stepped outside for a cigarette while we discussed the makeover and agreed it had been a success. When we returned, Sarah was escorting Missy up front. Missy seemed unsure of herself in the high heels at first, but by the time they made it to the front of the salon, she seemed to gain confidence. The beige open-toed pumps were 3 3/4-inch heels, and I was amazed by how easily Missy handled them. Apparently, Sarah had assumed Timmy would give up on the heels, but she'd miscalculated. Not only did Missy look comfortable, but she began to strut, posing like a shoe model with a hand on her hip, a faraway look in her eyes, and her shoulders pulled forward. She really leaned into the role. Sarah was laughing and clapping, just like Jordan and I. I walked Missy over to the large mirror and handed her the crimson lipstick I had selected for her. I stood beside her, slightly behind, and watched as she carefully applied it. I took my time explaining the process, and she was focused, determined to get it just right. After lining her lips with a pencil, I opened the tube of lipstick, an expensive brand known for its long-lasting formula. I slowly rolled it up and handed it to Missy. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the lipstick, but once it touched her fingers, she became steady. With confidence, she swept the red across her top and bottom lips, gently pressing them together. Her movements were so practiced, it was clear she had learned this from watching her mother. She expertly blotted her lips with a tissue and applied a second coat. The lipstick was a high-quality brand, lasting up to 18 hours, though realistically, it lasts about 10. What I liked most was that it didn't need constant touch-ups, it stayed shiny and moisturized all in one, needing only a quick refresh after a drink at a party. As Missy looked in the mirror, I couldn't help but feel nervous. She was so pretty, and her lips were so kissable. I had to remind myself that she was still a 14-year-old child in so many ways, despite how mature she looked. We both stood there, staring at her reflection, and I saw Missy smiling like she had just been asked to her first prom. When I looked over at Sarah, I noticed she was crying. "Are you okay, Sarah?" I asked, concerned. Sarah looked at her transformed daughter, standing in the heels, with the flippy pleated skirt of the dress resting at mid-thigh. The sleeveless top accentuated Missy's narrow shoulders, which seemed even more delicate against the high neck collar and open shoulders of the dress. The cream-colored fabric with lace details at the collar and hem gave the dress a polished, feminine look, definitely suitable for a night out for any young woman. The lace at the hem of the pleated skirt gave it a frilly, girly effect, and I couldn't help but wonder how much of a girly girl Missy was really becoming. Sarah smiled and said, "I'm fine, Jamie. It's just that, in that dress, she looks just like I did when I was her age." Everyone leaned in, waiting for her to continue. "Except she's more beautiful than I ever was." The air in the room seemed to lighten, or at least, it felt that way. Jordan had a grin on his face like the cat that ate the canary, while Sarah and Missy shared a warm embrace, mother and daughter. I felt a deep sense of satisfaction, and to be honest, a little excited, though that's a story for another time. After congratulating everyone, I closed up, and Jordan and I went out to hit the clubs. As we walked across the parking lot, I spotted Sarah and Missy, arm in arm, the familiar click of their heels on the concrete. I couldn't help but wonder what their evening might look like. Would they go out for dinner? It was late, but there were still plenty of nice places open for the weekend crowd. Maybe they grabbed a pizza on the way home and spent the night talking about everything that had happened. I don't know what unfolded after that, but I'm sure Missy, now tucked into a pretty nightgown, drifted off to sleep with sweet dreams. What about Sarah? How would she handle the complexities of having a son who wanted to look like a girl? I imagined she'd tell herself it was the right moment for the talk, perhaps discussing which side of the fence her child was on, the boys, bees, or the girls, birds. I guess I'll never know unless they come in for another mother-daughter makeover. I'd love to add some copper highlights to their hair. Did I mention that they have the same hair color? Well, Jordan told me they did, and I've seen it for myself. Life's full of gray, and by gray, I mean a rainbow of colors, not just black and white. We shouldn't feel forced to pick one or the other. I hope we can all be like Sarah and stay open to the realities around us. I'll have to email Jordan and ask her for updates on Missy and Sarah's journey. I'm curious if they ever come in for mother-daughter appointments at Jordan's salon. I can't wait for her to share the latest stories. I hope you sleep well tonight and have dreams that take you to mysterious, exciting places. May your dreams bring you peace and comfort through any tough times. Night, night. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel.